All right, so here are my final impressions for Tower of God. And I have to admit, this last episode was actually a good episode. Like, one of the main things this episode did was pretty much showcase what this whole first season was all about. And that is the lead up to Rachel's betrayal to Bam. And this episode here just pretty much tells you exactly why she did it. And the explanation behind why she did it was actually really well done. And I understand why she ended up doing what she did. Jealousy is a very powerful thing. So between that good portion of the episode and then apparently it looks like we're going to be having like a time skip for the next season. And I guess we're seeing like Bam like older with longer hair. I'm assuming that's who that is. I mean, it looked pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. It made me look forward to the next season. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But am I going to sit here and say that this whole season for Tower of God is like, you know, top tier, the greatest, the best? Because it really isn't like that. This show overall, honestly, is a very decent show. If I had to rate this show, I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10 at best. Going back to that betrayal when it comes to Rachel, there has been a lot of like mumblings online. I've been seeing comments and stuff like that, and people were just saying how much they hate Rachel, and Rachel's just so evil, and apparently with this event here, this makes people just hate her like so much. They're saying she's just as bad as Griffith from Berserk, mind you. Griffith from Berserk. Bruh, what are y'all talking about? The thing of the day, honestly, her actions were quite understandable. Bam literally had everything that she wanted, from the power, from that bravery, and just the cuteness, I guess. You want to take that from that too? Having all the friends. She didn't get any of that. And it ate away at her. Is between that and the fact that Head-On was kind of manipulating her and a few other characters to kind of edge her on to make that decision. Because mind you, she wasn't even supposed to be in the tower. That's the thing we find out in this episode. But Head-On ended up proposing a deal. And that deal is, of course, just to kill Bam. So you can climb the tower. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle with all this with Rachel. And it just kind of gets me more intrigued on what are we all trying to do here exactly? Because there's a bigger play going on in the background as we're seeing. And we've been seeing that from the last couple episodes beforehand. Granted, it's all could just amount to the fact that, you know, Bam is an irregular, and usually irregulars gotta die. But Head-On, with what he was saying, it made it seem as though he could be some type of savior, or he's gonna change up the game or something along those lines. So this even has me more intrigued on Head-On at this point. Like, what is his aim exactly? Is this guy a villain or what? Like, I have no idea what his angle is. So yeah, like I said, there are a lot of good points to this episode and makes the whole of Tower of God a little bit better. But this episode still has a lot of faults in it. One of the main faults is like the characters they're just so weak. It was hard to believe all these characters sitting there crying for Bam's death, because like the interactions we've seen with Bam and these characters are very far and few. So it's for me, it's really hard to be like, yeah, you know, I can see why that guy is crying for his death and this and that. I'm like, I don't know. It just like I felt a little detached from the scene there, and like that's one of the main things. Knowing what this whole pretty much season was about, which was just trying to get to the point where we have this reveal, this betrayal, I feel like they needed to kind of structure this a whole different way than if that's the case. Like, one of the things they could have done to make this season better, in my opinion, these are things that they probably could have done. One was add like a narrator. So when it comes to like the story building aspects and just trying to explain rules and so on and so forth, you have a narrator just explain all of that, do it quick, concise, and easy. Because how they were doing it in here was very just like long-winded and unnecessary in some ways of how they're explaining stuff. Because I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to explaining some stuff in this show, you can get kind of confused. But they needed to do that in combinations with actually building these other side characters up. Because now that we know that all these guys are going into the next season, they are important. So because of that, they really needed to actually spend some time actually developing some of these characters here. Yeah, but between doing that and then also, of course, keeping little sprinkles of information going in and out of this so we can also develop and build on for the next season. Not like they didn't do some of that already, but they could have done a little bit more. I feel like there's a better way of going about this. Like a great example of a first season pretty much prologue in a way is Promised Neverland. Promised Neverland, that whole first season, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter, because it matters because it really, all it does is build up the whole characterization for all the characters, who are the antagonists, and other little intricacies that are laid out in the foundation to really build this world that they live in. So all I'm saying is, when it comes to Promised Neverland, they do a better job at pretty much structuring everything they need to structure. And then we're going to go on to the next season. It's going to be like completely different. And another thing when it comes to this episode here that kind of just drops the ball a little bit is just giving us information. Like a good example is the fact that when it comes to this test that they passed, because if I'm not mistaken, wasn't the rules in order for them to pass, Bam and Rachel have to pass too? But for some reason, because, you know, Bam's supposedly dead, they still somehow pass anyways. It's like, but why though? Another thing too is the whole Leorio, I guess, quitting his job and he's gonna climb the tower, and that just brings a whole host of other questions about that for me. And I'm just like, well, another thing is like, I don't really understand why Leorio exactly like quit his whole position, because I mean, he's at a higher position. You should be able to get better information and get in there a bit more as opposed to just climbing the tower. But like, truthfully, like when it comes to Leorio, you can tell he's a much more important character than the anime kind of lets on. You can, like, this episode just made me feel like there's something more to him that we just didn't get to see. But again, this wasn't bad. This wasn't bad. The season wasn't a bad season. It was decent. It did make me look forward to seeing season 2 at this point. I don't know when that's coming out though. But when it does, I will watch that as well. But those are my thoughts when it comes to Tower of God as a whole in this final episode here. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Like or dislike this video. It's all good. And I will catch you guys in the next one. And until then, people, break out.